Welcome to Margin Business Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. In today's episode, we got Francois Jeffers, the Director of Business Development at Noviland. Welcome, Francois. One more thing. If you like our content, please hit the subscribe button and give us a thumbs up. Thank you and enjoy. Welcome to Margin Business Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm very happy to have you here today, Francois. Very good that you joined us to find the time to on your busy Noviland schedule, because there is a lot going on at the moment. There's a lot of challenges, a lot of good things as well. So yeah, just let us know where it all began, where your journey. I mean, we can say your professional journey began as well from your childhood. Sometimes already professional in childhood, but just where everything begins, and then we work ourselves up through your life up to your current position, and talk a little bit about everything what's going on at the moment.
Definitely. Yeah, I would say the entrepreneurial journey itself definitely started as a child. So I was actually raised with two immigrant parents, one from France and one from Bolivia.
Okay.
And I had an older sister. And when you're raised with immigrant parents, and it's not necessarily, you're a first generation. I was a first generation American. It's different growing up around everyone else, right? It's, we had some struggles. Obviously, my mom made do with as much as she could, but we had some struggles, of course. And there was always this need of, watching them work. So, for example, my dad was a baker. And so when I was a child, I would go sleep with him in his overnight shifts, and I would watch him work from like 7 p.m. until 7 a.m. And I was like, that's flipping nuts, but
wow,
it was awesome.
That's
We had some awesome, some baked goods after in the morning, but, and then my mom was a house cleaner. So she, when she came to this country, actually, she had um, a very sad story when she first came to this country as a house cleaner. That I don't think I'll dive into now. I did write a piece about it actually on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Um, but so yeah, she came in as a house cleaner. So I've always watched her work, cleaning at least 4 or 5 houses a day. As a kid, I would go with her.
Tough.
Whenever there wasn't school. I would sleep under the tables while she cleaned like the rest of the houses. And so I was always around like this work environment. And so a lot of people have a lot of definitions of entrepreneurship, but I think an entrepreneur is really just someone that loves to work, loves the hustle,
True.
loves to figure out just like, how can I make money right now? Doesn't necessarily mean it's someone that's launching a huge business. It can be anyone. Right. So that's sort of how I see the entrepreneurial journey go for a lot of people that particularly come into this country as immigrants. And so when I was a kid, obviously it kind of stuck with me, where it was like, I'm watching them, do a lot of work. I feel like I should be working too. I should do something. And so we actually lived in an apartment complex as a kid. And when I was 7 or 8 years old, I started going around to some of our neighbors, because some of our neighbors were a little bit elderly. And I would knock on the door and ask them, hey, can I take out your trash? And at first it was more of just like, I'm already taking out the trash, I might as well just take theirs out too. It was actually my neighbor, Lorenzo, which now he owns a towing business in Arlington, Virginia. But his mom needed help at the time. So I would just take out her trash, and she would always give me like 50 cents. She had a little coin jar that she used to keep.
Okay.
She used to be like, hey, just take out whatever you think is fair. I'd be like, okay, I'll take, 50 cents or $1. And that's nice. It'll get me something from the ice cream truck at least. Well, I realized like a lot of people just leave their trash outside the building. And this is a big apartment complex. So they would just leave their bags out there. Really annoying. We would get like letters about, hey, you have to make sure you take your trash to the trash can and stuff. So then I started going around at the end of school every day. And this was out. I was at least like third grade, because I started riding my bike to school sometimes. So I would go around knocking on every single door, and I'd be like, hey, can I take out your trash? And
7, 8 years old, all that, yeah?
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah. Somewhere around there. And before that, I was working on a farm with my dad. My dad lived in Shenandoah. He was a farmer. So it was always like something to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was all over the place. But yeah, I would go door to door, just ask them, hey, can you give me whatever you want? And eventually it was like, I was making like $40, $50 in a day. And at that age, in
That's
that time, even that was a lot. Yeah. I had like, my mom bought me my first little ATM, with my own money. She took me to the store. She's like, you can buy your little ATM. This is how you're going to put it in there. This is how you're going to track how much you have. And I was making a good amount of money. And so eventually I had some of the kids in the neighborhood, these two little twins, actually, their names were Daniel and Christopher. They
Okay.
started following me around and doing it. And I was like, hey, we could hit this entire complex if you both help me out. And how about this? I'll cut you guys in. I'll let you guys know which ones are the best tippers, and you guys give me just like some of it. And I had no idea about business at the time or anything, but I knew that like there's a lot of money to be made. And my mom was even like, why don't you just go do it? Whatever. I mean, I'm not even home yet. Before I get home, before you start doing your homework, might as well do it. Do something. Um, so that was a nice business. Eventually, the apartment complex caught on, and they sent my mom a letter saying that I needed to stop doing it because some of the people were getting annoyed by it. Yeah,
But
I
why?
was
You
like,
helped, you know?
exactly. That's what I thought, at least, and that's what she thought too. So I had to stop eventually, which is perfectly fine. I found a bunch of other things to do. I would go to I guess this was my introduction to arbitrage. I went to Goodwill, or my mom's bosses would give her like hand-me-down toys. And I would resell it to the kids in the neighborhoods. So it was like, any toys or anything that we had, we'd have like a little exchange, and it was a nice community of people, which now, obviously we know it as arbitrage. At that time, I just knew it as make some extra bucks.
Yeah.
Eventually, middle school was the first time we started going to Costco, and Costco was like a beautiful wonderland to me. I was like, whoa, you could get anything you want here. You could get it in bulk. You get it for cheap, right? And
So
so
it's
I saw
just,
candy.
sorry to interrupt you. It's just something similar to Walmart. If we, some bigger chains in the UK, I think, I'm not sure if in the UK they have Costco. I'm not even sure.
Okay.
I think it was
I
Tesco. But anyway,
Tesco.
it's a store. It's a store like Tesco, like, it's a big supermarket. Let's say it this way, yeah. For people who don't know it.
Yeah, it's a big supermarket where you could buy things in bulk. So instead of going and buying, let's say, a roll of paper towels that only have a dozen, you can go there and buy 3 dozen paper towels for a lot cheaper. And so they do that by economies of scale, which is a great model. But so when I went there, I saw candy, and I was like, huh, this candy is like 25 cents for a like a full-size bar, like a full-size bar of Snickers that they buy, at 7-Eleven. And in middle school, I went to Kenmore. Across the street, there was this little 7-Eleven. So after school every day, we weren't supposed to, because you're not supposed to cross that street, but
Yeah.
most of the kids would go across the street. We'd grab a Slurpee or a slushie, and we'd buy some candy. And so I was like, what if I did this in school? So we stopped getting in trouble going to the 7-Eleven, because everyone obviously wants this stuff and everyone wants the same stuff. So in the seventh grade, at lunch, I started going around at lunch asking everyone, hey, do you like want some Snickers? Do you want some Kit Kats? Do you want some Reese's? I have everything in my backpack. And I could keep it cold because I would be friends with some of the teachers. I could keep it in the teacher's lounge and in the fridges there sometimes.
Wow.
Eventually that turned into selling some Arizona iced teas. I'm not sure if they have those in the UK, but they were these big bottles, and they would sell them
Yes,
at
yes.
Safeway. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I've seen them recently, actually. Came
Okay.
only recently into Europe, from what yeah.
And they actually have a very unique supply chain too that we could definitely touch on. Um, but so they were selling those, a big like liter and a half,
Yes,
for
there's
75
like,
cents. Yeah, like a thick bottle. For 75 cents a piece. And I know easily those are worth like $2 or $3 at school, at least, because everyone would buy those too. They would have the 99-cent cans, and then they would have like the $2 or $3 big liters. Buy the big liters that last you all day. So I would do that. I would keep them cold at home. I would take them to school, keep them in my locker, keep them in the teacher's list. I had like a little business going on inside the school itself. Well, the issue with doing business basically within another business is that other business doesn't like it.
yeah,
Meaning the
sure.
school, the principals, they were like, this, first of all, one of their excuses were that this can lead to worse things, which makes sense. It could lead to selling drugs, or that was their mindset.
Yeah.
And I was like, I understand what you're saying, but I'm selling candy. Like, I'm selling candy and I'm selling juice. Like, these are two very, like, the most PG things that you could possibly sell. And I was making great money at that time too. Well, Dr. Word, the principal at the time, I guess he didn't like it. And so he called my mom, shut me down. And a few weeks later, get
Second
this is the
time.
best part. Yeah. A few weeks later, they opened a school shop with
Ah, you
all the
see?
same candy and all the stuff. They had the boxes that I used to get from Costco behind the shelves in the school shop. And I
That is so
was
mean, you
pissed.
know?
It
Yeah.
was really mean. Because I mean, I myself was learning more about business at that time than I think any of my peers knew about business, even in high school and even in college. Um, and so, I mean, I just started learning more about supply and demand. At that time, I didn't know about it, but when we got into high school and we started learning about supply and demand, I realized like I was onto something. I could have not necessarily scaled that up. I couldn't have been into, 5 different middle schools and
Sure.
having everyone sell it. Maybe I could have, who knows?
Yeah, like the vendor
Um,
machines, later on. That would
yeah.
be, yeah.
And like the teachers had the vending machines in the teachers lounge. So it's like, what harm am I doing? Like
Exactly.
what distractions? It didn't make sense to me.
And this is what I'm saying in today's school system, for example. When somebody comes up like this, they should tell them, listen, here's your table. You want your break? You want to sell something on your break? Okay, go ahead. Here's your table. Sell your stuff. Like do something. If they should push the kids towards
Right.
something useful, and not just bang their heads with something which they never use in life afterwards. I mean,
Well, it seems silly to me because again, I was learning more about business than ever, and I was making great
sure.
money. I bought an Xbox, I bought some video games. Of course, I saved some. It led me to actually open my first credit card when I was 16 by doing an advanced credit card. Basically, you pay money to the bank, you
Yeah.
give them like $300, and they give you a card saying if you're responsible with this $300 and you don't spend it excessively, then we'll eventually, when you turn 18, we'll give you a credit card with a higher limit. And
Okay.
these are things that my mom taught me. Actually,
Wow.
while I was doing all this, in high school, for example, I had my own sort of Uber system. Also, I would take kids from school to their house. And I'd be like, just give me like 10, $15, whatever. And it's like 4 of you guys. I know like 2 of you guys live close to each other. 2 of you guys don't. I charge you like $10. You guys could be like $20, and it's gonna be a little bit later. I'll give you guys rides. So I eventually got to get my own car when I was 16. And so, I mean, it's very minor things, but it's things that I wish schools taught, that they
Yes.
incentivize. Like, hey, if you enjoy business, these are some things that you can actually do to make some money. Because I mean, at the same time, some of my peers weren't doing that. They were taking the wrong roads to still make money, but they were taking different paths. And so that's you know a little bit about my past in regards to elementary school, middle school, and high school. But eventually,
That's
what I learned
already
is,
very nice story. Really, I really enjoy it. It's
yeah, well, it was fun. It was fun. And that's what I think a lot of schools should be. A lot of fun, a lot of
yes.
self learning, not just here's a textbook, learn exactly what's in this textbook.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that's what we see today. A lot of the entrepreneurs that are on Amazon, for example, they never went to college for Amazon. A lot of them didn't even go to college. So it was like, why are you pushing these things that personally I hate? I hate history. I hate chemistry. I hate all the not necessarily the topic, but I hate that I have to learn it. Like I hate that you're
Yes, I
forcing
understand.
me to learn these things. Well, eventually I learned that I just like problem solving. Like we had a few classes where it was just like, hey, here's this little case. Like, how would we, in a group collaboratively figure this out and solve the solution together? And eventually that's what I went to college for, industrial engineering, which
Ah,
was,
okay. Wow.
yeah, yeah. And that's purely what problem solving is for. If anyone has ever thought about going to college and they didn't know exactly what they wanted and they didn't realize they wanted to go maybe for business or marketing or but they enjoy problem solving and they think they could take some of the more rigorous classes, calculus, physics, mechanical engineering classes, a little bit harder of engineering classes, but you still learn everything. Industrial engineering is 100% the way to go. I mean, it's really just like, hey, this company XYZ has this problem. take a look at it, find a holistic solution. Take a look at it. Could it be their, there are two offices of two people that fight too much and that's causing issues in the workforce? That's like one problem that you might have to solve. So how do you rearrange that? Or it's, where should you find your next warehouse? Because you're looking for the shortest distance to a port because the transportation costs are too much. Well,
exactly.
now you have to think about how that's going to be distributed to your customers and what the cost of that is, what relationships you have. And ultimately, that's where I fell in love with supply chain. That's sort of where I am today. I mean, college was definitely, I took a longer route than most. I took about 6 years to actually finish.
It's not too long, I mean.
Yeah. I mean, it's not the longest, and I see it as, I had more time to learn more things. So, every semester extra that I was there, I got to actually learn something that maybe I wasn't that good at. I switched a few times, went from computer science to civil engineering to computer science, civil, and then to industrial. So industrial was the third major that I landed on.
Okay.
But when you come from immigrant parents, you don't have much of a choice. You either be a lawyer, you either be a doctor, or you're an engineer.
I know. It's kind
you don't
of
have much leeway.
Yeah. I mean, nowadays it's a bit. I hope nowadays it's a bit different, because obviously our generation right now, we have seen all of this, and they had all this pressure of this, and now obviously. What I will teach or give down is really do what you really like. We check as well, what are the kids good in? What are their capabilities? And things what they don't really need. It's just whatever. It's okay. It's not a problem. But obviously the basics need to be in. You need to know how to write, how to read. You need to know how to apply some kind of maths. Some kind of problem solving, but everything after that, as you said, history and everything. Yes, you need to have some knowledge, but you don't have to know the whole book, everything what went on in the last 300-400 years in Europe, or it's you will get this on your own little by little. So I completely agree with you. This would be definitely something where they need to really look into.
Yeah. I mean, I took that road. I took the road of taking the AP Advanced Placement and the IB, the International Baccalaureate classes in high school. So I took, the pre-calcs and computer science, and that's why I wanted to go into computer science, because in high school, I loved computer science. I saw it as, hey, I can make games. I can make, for example, we had to make an address book for a small business in the local area, and it was like, how do you program that? And so I found all that very interesting, but it all led back to like, hey, there's this problem, make a solution.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
and that's how I sort of approach everything. And then again, that's where industrial engineering just really hones in on just knowing all those different skills, understanding that there are mechanical engineering problems, that there are chemical engineering problems, there are HR problems, all these different facets to a business, and how can you fix it using the skills that or that someone else knows. You don't have to be an expert in everything. You don't have to be Superman, but you at least have to recognize there is someone out there that could fix this, and then finding that right solution, obviously, for that problem. And then this was
sorry. This was what year was this around?
2012 to 2018.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's why, because I was listening, I was like, oh, okay, you're very advanced already at that in that age with computers and everything. Because if we talk about early 2000s or something, then it would not be that.
It'd be different.
Yes, internet and everything. That's why I was a bit. Okay.
Yeah, it was nice. I mean, in high school, I got to learn a little bit of C++. I learned JavaScript.
Well, it's amazing. It's amazing. I mean, it's good to know the basics, and it's good to know how how to work with it. But you don't. Obviously, an expert would be even better. But it's good. It's a good for people who love it. Who are ambitious in it. C++ was a big door opener for everyone. Yeah.
and then the simple one like Python, and just
Yeah.
understanding how Python works in Eclipse, and understanding UX and UI with the code itself. So it was very logical, which I enjoy the process of like the if thens, this is going to happen, so this is going to happen, so you have to make sure it's all in logical order.
Okay.
And again, everything just relayed back to supply chain, and I that's ultimately how I ended up falling in love with supply chain. Took a few classes with like understanding a full manufacturing process, which a lot of people don't understand. It's not just, for example, putting a mug on this piece of little cardboard. And for those that are listening, I'm just holding up a little mug by
Okay.
Ecom Engine, actually. um, it's a lot more to that. And so going through, for example, bill of materials, looking at direct and indirect labor costs, looking at overhead, just general overhead for the facility, and those are part of your fixed costs. So breaking down in detail all these different facets, paying mechanical engineers and the product designers, and understanding the differences between both of them and how their bill rates differentiate from someone that's in-house. It was fascinating to me, and it still is today. And so a lot of those same principles that I was able to learn in college of problem solving in general, as well as the supply chain and manufacturing and logistics, it's what I'm able to apply in Noviland.
Okay.
And that's ultimately how I stumbled upon it in the first place. This was, I believe, about 6 years ago, while I was still in college. I was looking for an
Okay.
internship, actually, and I applied, and the post was relatively vague. It said something about supply chain, and it said like changing. What did it say exactly? It said like innovating the supply chain in a revolutionary way, and
That's
the words
nicely
themselves.
written. The wording, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that really caught my eye, and I knew that I wanted to do something in supply chain. I knew that um, I didn't necessarily enjoy working for larger corporations. I did some contracting work, a lot of data entry, which isn't necessarily the corporate world, but it's getting dressed in a suit and tie and having to go
Yeah.
in every single day and reporting to someone. It's not something that I was super thrilled with. And before that, even, I was a merchandiser slash I shadowed the industrial engineer at Coca-Cola and at a distribution
Oh,
center in Fairfax. And I was like, that's interesting how the merchandisers work with the district account managers to tell them what they might need, what setups they might have, what competition they're having. They relay that back to the distribution centers. Distribution centers might pump out new product or make sure that they order enough from their fulfillment centers. So it all sort of tied in for me. I just like the logic of this step, and then this step, and then this step, and then diving into the nitty gritty got me excited, which for a lot of people, that's like the most boring thing in the world.
I
Which I
understand.
get. I get it. It's not for everyone. Um,
I think it's an amazing. I think it's amazing. Especially, yeah. When I check Noviland and what they do is, I mean, we get into this, but it's amazing just to
yeah.
it's there are a few things right now. What I think in the world, there's not enough countries where people actually manufacture.
Hmm.
We're a little bit limited ourselves. I mean, China, we know, it's the best at the moment, the best, the fastest to provide anything what you want. If you want to manufacture anything, then you
Hmm.
have, because I've seen on your website as well, there is Vietnam and there's the United States, right?
Well, we
I'm not
have
sure.
offices in the U.S. And we
Okay.
have an office in Vietnam. Vietnam
Hmm.
isn't open right now for our
Okay.
manufacturing sector, but we do
Ah, okay, I
have
understand.
locations down. It's for a few of
Okay.
our enterprise clients. We do have
Okay, I understand.
manufacturers down there that we work with.
Okay, because I thought it's already the manufacturing process as well in Vietnam. So at the moment you are based, I mean, the manufacturing process is only in China, right? Is there at some point, because there is plenty of location as well in the world, which would
At this time,
at this time, yeah? Are you looking into
yeah.
something specific, or I mean,
So
if
we
you're able
are
to talk
looking
about
at
it?
Yeah. I mean, we are looking into other countries, definitely. I mean, there's not a chance that anyone can just consider supply chain and only think China, no matter who it is.
I mean, it's
We're
easy. Let's say it this way: it's easy, and
Yeah.
it's something you know how it works, and that's it. It's fast. You know, you that's what you want. That's what you get, and that's it. Deal, done deal. Container comes, done. For the others,
I
it's
wish
always.
I wish it was that easy.
No, I know. I just made it a little bit faster. I know. For example, first the sample comes, sample not good. Second sample comes, sample not good. Third sample comes, sample not good. And and then maybe you get into the deal at the fourth sample. It's okay. There is another process, but I just made it very quickly.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's a very long process, and our founders actually come from manufacturing backgrounds in China, and so their families they own very large manufacturing plants that pump out a lot of building materials, a lot of hardware, and
okay,
they were working with their families to particularly Jay, our COO, she worked with her family to work with the clients in the US at that time, just to make sure that the deals went through right, make sure that, if the US clients needed any help, they could talk to Jay, Jay can talk to her family, and they would relay everything that way, which is a very traditional sourcing agent way,
yeah,
right? It's having like one dedicated point of contact and going back and forth. And Chuan, our founder, he also came from manufacturing background. Um, but he has more technical experience also. So he was I believe, a senior engineer at Google, or I believe a senior engineer at
oh,
Google.
okay, okay,
Um, and he had this vision, still has this vision, to really innovate the way the supply chain infrastructure is handled. So today we have Alibaba, we have DHgate, we have a lot of different
yes,
marketplaces for suppliers to go on and list their services or their products and sell them to buyers, whether it's in the US or globally, which is great. It's one of the best things that ever happened to supply chain, I would say.
oh, 100%.
But there are different ways to source, right? There are still people that they might find something on Alibaba, they might still have a sourcing agent and tell that sourcing agent, hey, can you check out this factory, make sure that they're legit, and then come back to me and let me know. Well, we look at it as a lot of these business owners, particularly small to medium sized business owners, they love to be hands on in the supply chain process, for starters. Uh, but it's also a huge limiting factor when it comes to sourcing. It's how many suppliers can you actually talk to at one time,
Yeah,
verify them, gather quotes, go through the sampling process, which you broke down. It could be several rounds of samples before you even land on something that you like. Then there still might be issues with quality control, and then logistics, right? There's all these different steps, and you might work with a sourcing agent, a factory, a quality control inspector, a freight forwarder, a customs agent, and then a trucking company domestically. There's so many different parties. Well, what if there's one company that can handle all that for you, and that you can just say, I need this mug. These are the specifications. I'm a master in knowing exactly what I need because I understand my audience. I know where it's going to be sold. So I know I need, let's say, a 3PL in California because most of my customers are in California. I need a um, 3PL on the East Coast because a lot of my customers are in Florida and in New York.
sure.
So they're really good at knowing these facets of their business, uh, but it's a long process, and they typically have to hire a lot of people to take care of the supply chain to make sure that it's all working, right? So it's something that excites me when we first talked about it. When I first talked about it with our founders at that time 5 years ago, and they described this to me, and they said, and we're going to make it all online. We're going to make it one platform where
It's a very good idea,
where
definitely.
everyone can benefit and anyone can benefit, not just the Fortune 500. It's not just the Fortune thousands even. It's anyone in the world that needs anything can quickly streamline their entire supply chain process in one easy to use place, and we'll have an entire team that works for them. And I fell in love. I saw the problem. I knew there was a problem. I knew that he was looking for a solution, and I wanted to be a part of that. It
I
falls
mean,
directly. Mhm.
it's sorry to interrupt you. It's amazing because who don't want actually, just when you want to order something, I mean, when you order from China or anywhere else in the world, it don't matter. You literally have to fly there. You cannot just call and say, listen, I want this, let's do a wire, and you send it, and that's good. Okay. So
Right.
there are so many factors which can ruin you in one go, um, by sending, like you said, like, for example, the sample is not the sample you wanted. Okay, but he sent you a good sample at this time, but the whole merchandise, you know, I'm sure there's hundreds of people went through this. The container arrived and it was a complete horror. So what you're going to do? You send the container back? No, it's not possible anymore. So I mean, you can go through processes that it works, but I think you're losing so much money in the process of doing all of this by yourself. Time you spend there, you sleep in hotels, you wait until the manufacturing process goes on. You speak with the freight forwarders, as you said. You have all these people involved, and and you have as well a business to run on the back. I mean, I don't think that is possible anymore. If you not have like a real load of money where you can for 6 months just 100% take care of this process. So I think what Noviland did is just a demand. It was just demanded by everyone, and it's still demanded by everyone, because I mean, what is easier? Call you guys up, say what you want, and you deliver. I mean, without no problems. And I'm sure you have insurance when the container arrive, or obviously everything will be checked before.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that it's just will be sent. So I think the whole process makes so much sense. It's amazing, really.
Yeah, and I mean, it's something where the different part of it also is that we do have the boots on the ground for you, and we do have our headquarters here in the US, so you still get that US based customer service, right?
Exactly.
Where if you need something is responded quickly, it's responded on time, it's responded accurately. um, and then you also have the boots on the ground that execute, right? So that itself is just like two levels where it's like, you, unless you have an exact replica of yourself to be in the US or be in
Yes.
Europe or be wherever your consumers are, and keeping your ear to the ground, continue those marketing operations, continuing those sales, continue building partnerships, and then being also, let's say, in China or in Vietnam or in Brazil or Mexico and manufacturing. uh, well, that's going to be pretty damn hard. Even with Zoom, even with
No, no, it's not.
anything else that you're using with, it's not the same.
No, it's not possible.
And believe it or not, it's a concept that seems very logical to us, and it seems very logical to
Oh, it is.
the thousands that have signed up to use us. But there's still challenges, right? It's We don't have every factory in the world to be able to make your product, right? Also, if it's like, if you're not prepared properly, if you don't have the right budget, if you come into this thinking, I just took a course, right? Let's say I just took a $5,000 course. That $5,000 course promised me that with $2,000 I could turn $2,000 into $10,000 on Amazon in 6 months. Well, I have to have the conversation with them about, hey, you have a wonderful idea, very well thought out. I love it. I would be one of your first customers. But with $2,000, you can't get that level of customization because the minimum order quantities are going to be much higher. The different parts and materials right now, the raw materials prices are going up. There's limited quantities of them. So the lead times themselves are going to expand. We're going into peak season because, this is right before, let's say, Golden Week, or everyone's preparing for Chinese New Year. There's so many facets to supply chain that sometimes these conversations that I have with them are devastating. It turns into,
Yes, I
wow,
understand.
I just spent so much time, I spent so much money, and I was ready for this. Why can't you do it? I talked to someone on Alibaba. They said they could do it in a week. And I'm like, man, Omar, I'm sorry. I really wish that I could make those promises to you. But in a week, after you talk to them and everything, if nothing goes right, come back to us and let us know, and we'll be sure to talk through it again. Um, it's one of those very, very difficult things when not enough business owners and entrepreneurs have that background in supply chain. At least the background, the novice background, to understand
Yes.
what are MOQs, what are Incoterms, what why can't these customizations be made? They seem so easy, they seem so simple. Why can't you just put on this cardboard at the bottom of the mug? Just glue it on,
You need
right?
a mold, yeah.
Yeah, you need a mold, you need the tooling behind it, you need the manufacturing process to actually ensure quality. So it's it's fun, it's tough, it's a big problem that we're trying to solve with a small team, to be frank, but it's something that we truly believe in. It's something that we do believe that we're building a new infrastructure and supply chain. And I think, as we continue growing our factory network, as we continue education, and we continue putting out pieces of education that are consumable. I don't want to
Yeah.
teach a course. I don't want you to sit there and take 5 hours of notes every single week. I want you to watch a 2-minute video and quickly understand, oh, this is what Incoterms are. This is what FOB is. So FOB doesn't mean that they're paying for shipping. I have to coordinate with the freight forwarder. They don't. This is why QC is so important. Um, so as long as we're able to educate even the most knowledgeable businessmen, and I mean very knowledgeable, that have
I
been
understand. Yeah.
very successful in the past, um, bringing them back to the basics of supply chain, I think is very important, and it's part of our mission this year.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, you see yourself, even the smallest things, what the changes, what is right now. Just when we talk about something like a container, a
Hmm.
container from China to Europe was I don't know what was the prices about between 6 and 8 thousand, something like that, when you
Yeah,
had a full
something like
container.
that.
And last week I spoke with somebody who told me they paid 18K just to get the container in. If you have so high price fluctuations, then it's for sure, if somebody comes to you and say, listen, have this amount of money, I want to get into the business, how can I do it? Because at the end you're going to pay on top of that. That's what they won't tell him at Alibaba, that on top
Hmm.
of that, that he will pay another, I don't know, another 3 4 thousand in his, depending on how much you're going to ship, in shipping costs. Okay, it's funny to have the MOQ of 1,000 and you pay like $1 for per item, for example, but it don't stay there. It's easy when you look at it from the outside, but the breakdown process. That's why I would straight away say, okay, thank you, but I think a company like Noviland could a lot better take care of this than myself. Just to click buttons, and I think it's gonna be all good. No, I don't. I
Well,
don't believe.
I appreciate that you share that mindset, because it is something also where it has turned very transactional. It has turned into a lot of suppliers that I've seen, at least on whether it's Alibaba or anywhere else. They will tell you, "Hey, this is just $1." What they won't tell you is what's not included. Right? You mentioned
Exactly.
the shipping, but what about packaging? What about the
Ah,
logo that you wanted to print on it? What
yeah.
about the expanded polystyrene, or the styrofoam, as we a lot of us know it, to put inside of the packaging? How is that going to affect the volume? How is that volume going to affect the weight? How is that volumetric weight going to affect the shipping? And where is that going to go? If that's coming into the US, does it go to the West Coast? Does it go to the East Coast? Where's your fulfillment center? What's the best route? Who's going to take care of the FNSKU labels, the master cartons, reinforcing your pack? There's so much that goes into it, right? Where it's impossible for that one salesperson on Alibaba or anywhere else to say, I have thought of all of this for you. And that goes into the $1 price. That goes into the $1 DDP price that I just quoted you, because then 6 weeks later you find out, oh, that didn't include, that quality measure that I wanted. These are falling off really easily. Why? Make those
Yeah.
better. You said you would. No, I didn't say that I would make you a quality product that would stay on. I told you I would make this for $1. Now, if that stays on or
That's
not,
it.
I
Yeah.
didn't tell
Exactly.
you. I didn't say that that included it, right? For that, it's going to be an extra 50 cents, because we have to throw out a lot of the mugs because they don't actually fit the right size of it. And there these conversations that go on in the back end, that those that actually visit China and can talk to their factories, I would
Oh,
always suggest it. Always, every single time, hands down. No matter who you use, if you have a sourcing agent, if you can hire a translator, if you go on a trip with, I think Tim Jordan does a trip in sourcing in China. Um, if you're going to India, I know Megla does sourcing in India
yes.
trips, Megla Bardwaj also. So, I mean, when you could go there, and you're going to learn so much about
Oh,
just, hey,
definitely.
what thought actually goes into these things from the factories. What exactly are they saying yes to? Are they saying yes to, I will make that for 5% cheaper, but I'm going to compromise the quality? Or are they saying, yes, I'm going to make that 5% cheaper because I appreciate your business? and I appreciate your business because your business has grown over the past 6 months. And so there's so
Yeah,
much, so
there's
much that goes
there's
into
as well
it.
the cultural aspect, which most of
Hmm.
the people completely forget, or not used to. Let's say it this way, because the culture, Chinese culture is different, Indian culture is different,
Hmm.
Mexican culture is different. There is plenty of leather products which come out of Mexico. So
Hmm.
people might want to source from one of these countries, but don't understand what, for example, in China they would say yes, 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 we can do it, yes. But as you said, maybe we compromise on quality. It's yes, 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 but you need to know which yes, and because I rarely have heard them say no, so
Mm.
they can do almost everything, but the problem is always the breakdown of it. So there, like, we don't go now in details into this, but culture is super important. You need to understand the culture. If you don't understand the culture, like you said, get a translator, get somebody who knows the ground. Even
Mm.
myself, I would, I've traveled a lot, I know a lot of people, I know a lot of places. Myself, I would take somebody with me, a translator who's gonna explain these things to me.
Mm.
Because obviously I haven't lived there. You need to live in a country to understand the culture. You maybe even to speak the language.
Yeah.
So no, there is few people, in this world who maybe have this natural thing, in just talking with anyone in the world, even though they don't know the culture. But it's not
Right.
many of them. I haven't seen many of them. But
Yeah.
everyone who was, for example, was dealing in China, was living in China for quite a while, or at least stayed there on a longer term.
Mm.
So I like I said, it's everything makes a lot of sense, because now everything is global. It's not so easy. It's easy to sit in the jet and just fly here and fly there, and but it didn't solve the problem with that. It's when you go back home, they still might use a quality which you don't agree with, and then they will ask afterwards. You say, but I didn't ask for this. You said, well, yeah,
Mm.
but we thought it's good for you, but then it's already done. You cannot go backwards.
Well, and the crazy part is too, a lot of businesses, they have the foresight of wanting to expand internationally, right? And let's say they're in the US and they want to expand into the EU. Well, how are you going to do that with someone that you don't know? How are you going to
Yes,
rely on a
exactly.
supplier that is going to send product to a whole different country that you have no representatives in?
I
Amazon
understand.
is
Yeah,
not your representative, right? They are not on your side. They're in the business of selling products. They're not in the business of keeping a small seller particularly happy, because there's tons of them, right? Their goal is to list as many products onto the marketplace as possible. And if a few fail, that's okay. Well, how are you going to do that without having an established relationship, without understanding who it is on that other side of the screen that you can trust?
it's hard. It's hard. We have done in the time of Brexit, because we're in the European Union. We're a European
Mm.
Union, not based European based company, but we are from the European Union, so we have very good knowledge of the language and as well on the
Mm.
culture. So we have been asked when this was this time to. Sometimes from our clients to just for a favor. We don't do this on a service basis, but to ask to get some information how they can ship from the UK, for example, into Europe, or how can they ship from China into Europe instead of into the UK. So you have to go on the ground. You have to begin to call, and most of the warehouses, for example, in Northern Europe, and there is Le Havre in northern France, and
Mm.
you got Barcelona, you got southern Spain, Algeciras, you got Morocco, North Africa coming in as well. All of these places, if you call them not in their native language, they hang up on you.
Yeah.
It's until you find somebody who's speaking actually English somewhere, it's going to take you a while, and most people will give up before, because really, I don't know how many times when myself I tried myself, and when I understood I speak a few languages, but sometimes not enough. So I can tell you, it's on the ground here in Europe. For example, even here in Europe, you will need somebody who helps you, like you said, a person you can trust. And if you find these people, then you really need to go deep with them. You might fly there, you might talk to them, because all the supply, the warehouses, everything is still very how can I say, very familiar, very, like you said, everyone knows each other, you know.
Hmm.
And it's not an environment which is very international, let's say it this way.
Right.
Maybe on some
More
floors the
domestic.
people are more international, but on the groundwork the people are not very international. So who's picking up the phone just like that here, and then like whatever, so it's still very, very rural, I would say. So you really need to go there and talk with them, and or you find somebody who's speaking the language. So it's a lot of culture involved. So I completely agree with you as well. You need to have partners over there who actually know what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's also far too often that someone will say, "Hey, I want this. I want it for this price. Can you do it? Yes or no?" With first time contacting a
Yeah.
supplier, and we see it even on our platform. First time contacting a supplier, that is their introduction. It's not, "Hey, this is who I am. This is what my plan is. This is how are you doing?" I would to, even to whom it may concern, or how are you doing? It just easy. It's an
Yeah.
easy level of kindness that everyone tends to skip over, but it is
Yes.
the most important part of
It's true.
every single culture. Right? There's
Yes.
not a culture that goes by where you immediately go and you start talking to someone and you demand a response.
Yeah,
It's
you
always a
cannot.
"Hey, how are you doing?" Right? It's simple. And I mean, those little things, if you forget, that's perfectly fine. But again, that's what our team is here for. They're here to manage those relationships, to keep them happy. And another thing that you mentioned is that you almost never hear anyone say no, right? That seems odd.
Yes.
But once you have those relationships, you will start hearing the word no a lot more. And it's not because they don't like you, it's because they appreciate you and they appreciate your business. So
Yeah.
if they do say no, it's for a reason. It's not because, "Hey, I don't like you. No, I'm not going to do that." Unless you're genuinely an asshole. In that case, yeah, they might say no to you. But it could be, again, going back to this mug representation. I want to attach these two pieces. Can that be done? And they say no, but they're going to say no, but this is why. And it's because we don't currently have a supplier of the cork that you want to put on the bottom of it. And it
Yes.
might take us a few weeks. And I know that you're running on a very tight timeline and you have a very small budget usually. So that's why it's a no. So it's when you start hearing those no's, that's when you can start to also see, hey, that partnership, that relationship is starting to build. And you could do that also on vice versa. Hey, if they say, hey, the prices need to increase, it's not just no, prices can't increase. Period. I'm paying $1 for this, and that's all I'm going to pay. It's, hey, I understand the prices need to increase. I'd love to know why. What can we do together to keep them down? Are there any possibilities for higher payment terms if I order higher inventory levels? I'm having a really hard cash flow problem. Can you store some in your warehouse and just ship a few of them to me? Can I maybe change those to net 15 terms for just that portion of the shipment so I can sell those out, have enough cash for the next order? It's a lot of just problem solving, not seeing them as true just hard stops. There's never a hard stop in business. There's always room for negotiation, but it's about how you negotiate. Right? It's not, again, not, you can't be an asshole about it. You can't just say no. This is what I'm going to pay, and this is what I'm going to pay, and that's it. Because just like you can fire them as your supplier. Well, they could
Yes.
fire you as your client. It goes both ways. They're not, a lot of them are not dying for business. They usually have customers that are
They
a lot
usually,
larger.
yeah,
No matter
exactly.
what, unless you're a Fortune 500 company, you're usually not their largest client. They're going to survive without your orders typically. They appreciate your orders, but they're going to survive without them. So, um, y- you know, as much as I love the logic in a lot of the supply chain, I appreciate a lot of the relationship in it, a lot of
Sure.
the just common niceties. Some of the best people that we can work with just say a simple "Hi, how are you doing?" It makes our product specialists so happy. I mean, we have some people that offer to send them gifts around Chinese New Year. They offer to send them gifts around their birthdays, even. And it's a relationship that it's unbeatable. If you
Yes,
talk
it's
to a
unbelievable.
factory, yeah, I mean, especially in COVID, I forgot which supply chain podcast I was listening to. I need to go back and find it. But it was something like in 2020, um, SRM, which is supplier relationship management, went up on the scale. There's usually like a 1 to 10 scale, and they they rate their supply chain on like what's the most important. Supplier relationship management went up on the scale to like the top 3, and it
Wow.
usually is like
Okay.
the bottoms, the from 7 to 10,
Okay.
because people realized, well, shit, I don't have product. China's shut down. My logistics costs are insane. There's no containers. And if a factory realizes, oh, this is a very nice, very important client to us because they are so nice, because they are so reliable also, well, I'm going to help them out. I'm going to help them find a container. I'm going to help them find some space to store their items. I'm going to work with them for better payment terms because I understand it takes longer. There's a lot of port congestion. Now they have these additional costs. Well, they told me that PPC costs were going up. So I need to figure out a way to help them out. Maybe they can remove one feature from the product and it helps their product go down dramatically. Maybe they can change the material. There's so much that goes into just this one relationship, right? Now multiply that across 1,000 SKUs.
Yes,
That's
I
hard.
know. It's very hard, and I completely agree with you because the relationships take so much time to build up. You cannot just run in, even if you have a lot of funds in order to you start your business. It's not. It's still relationship won't pay that, as you mentioned. The most of them are not dying to get their business. What people think, it's they're working with large suppliers. We talk about thousands of schools per month which gets shipped. It's completely crazy. If you ever had a look at the container ships who are passing, who are going out of China and running into the European or US ports. It's they look like skyscrapers. you
Yeah.
know. So maybe people then realize that actually their business, even if it's maybe a big business, when we talk about 2-3 containers per month, is not really the size of some companies which are actually running containers into the States or into Europe. So I think, make it short, it's Noviland is definitely built the bridge in order to make this happen faster and without a headache. This is for
That's what
me
we're
what I
hoping for.
understand. Exactly.
I appreciate that. It's something that we're working towards. Like I said, we're not for everyone. If it's $1,000, $2,000 order, we only work with medium to large size factories,
Sure.
and we only have about 5,000 of them in our network right now. So it's not every single thing across the board as much as we're pushing towards. Um, but it's definitely uh, it's a different way to handle your supply chain infrastructure. It is a streamlined way. It is a simple way. I mean, today you go on to Amazon to buy anything you need, right? It's very simple. Rather than going to the store, going to the different aisles, finding what you need, interacting with, it's a lot of steps
Sure.
that we just take care
Exactly.
of. Similar in that manner. So,
Good
I
example.
mean,
Very good example. I
yeah,
like that
yeah.
example.
So we hope to we have a big project coming out here in August. Hopefully, I can talk to you more about it
Oh, please,
when I'm
because that
allowed
was
to in
my
a few weeks.
next question actually. What is the plan for Noviland? Where they want to go, and what kind of, maybe you can globally speak about it, like what is the plan? Where is Noviland going for the next 5 to 10 years? What's the plan of the company?
Yeah, I mean, part of our vision is really, I mean, diving deep into innovating on the supply chain infrastructure as a whole.
Okay.
That's every single facet of the supply chain. And what people don't realize is the supply chain is not just transporting a product from one place to another. It's, you know, finding
That's
where
a
the raw
lot more. Yeah.
materials are all the way through how do the consumers get it. That's the upstream. Upstream means that you're going up to the main source, the raw materials that are put together to put into the products. The downstream is you're going towards the consumers, right? And everything in between. And we're looking to really, really, really shake up the industry with just new innovations, which is what it needs. We're innovating in a
Oh,
lot of
definitely.
facets, right? Walmart, for example, coming out with their own e-commerce
Yes.
sector with Walmart.com. A lot of other countries have beautiful platforms and marketplaces. But I think truly the last major innovation that we had to supply chain are marketplaces like Alibaba. And that's, again, a beautiful marketplace that you can find tons of suppliers.
Oh, yes, 100%.
But there's that also means that there are new ways to do it. With every solution, there's new problems, and we just hope to tackle those problems with innovative solutions.
Okay. That's really nice. The vision, I like the vision, because it still stays in the zone, and like you said, there is so much to do, there is so much to improve, and there is so many. The e-commerce business will be so big within the next 5, 10, 20 years. We don't know how fast, because we thought it's not going so fast before COVID, but actually COVID has speeded it up so fast that we're now already 25 years ahead on our schedule. So we never know what the next years bring, but I'm 100% sure the industry will go bigger. It's growing every second, and everything is new. There is new things every day coming out of Amazon. To keep up with all that stuff, you need a whole team who's actually studying all of this. If not, you cannot keep up. So for me myself, I'm trying to stay focused on one thing, and try not to because if not, your head explodes. It's every day it's something new. So it's really good. I think it's a good vision. It's a good, steady and stable vision for the future. Another question as well. What is your motivation every day when you get up, when you start your day? What is it that you love to do?
Honestly, it's my biggest motivation is that the problem never ends. Like you said, there is always something new. Suez Canal,
Exactly.
the biggest thing in the world that no one realized, actually, something as small to some people but as large to us as the Suez Canal impacting the global supply chain doesn't just impact the boats that are going into the EU, for example. It impacts the containers that were supposed to go back to China, or supposed to go back to India or anywhere else,
Exactly.
and that were supposed to be transported to the US. And now US are seeing insane costs. So it's like all these new problems every single day from this trickle effect. And this is way before COVID, way before anything. We were still having massive supply chain problems. As beautiful as the supply chain is, there's always, every single day, there's going to be a problem. And there's new businesses that have new problems, and we get to tackle those with them. Um, so working on those problems, it kind of just it gets me excited. I mean, supply chain gets me excited, and problem solving has always been a passion of mine. As you know, I try to explain before, it's something that I love to work also. I I find myself just usually doing 12, 16 hour days sometimes. I'm like, where the hell did the time go? Like what happened?
Yes, it's
Like
it's a
where
lot.
did
Yeah,
the sun go? But it's fun.
it
And
is.
that's my biggest thing. I'm like, hey, if my dad, for example, can be in a bakery doing the same exact thing for 12 to 14 hours, I can do something that I actually love, something that I enjoy, something I get to use my mind all day. And I could sit here doing it. And I have multiple screens in front of me, and I get to have everything going at one time. So it's like I'm getting paid to learn and solve new problems every day. And that's what really motivates me. If I could do that where money wasn't an issue, I would continue doing it every single day with the smaller businesses that we could tackle those problems for. Um, but it's fun. I mean, again, it's definitely not for everyone. I tell my friends what I do sometimes, and they're so bored out of their minds. I could see it in their eyes. They're like,
Oh, okay.
give a shit. But I'm like, it's okay. I understand it's not for everyone. I love it personally. And that's really what drives me to get up every day and to just sort of get after it.
And so yeah, we talk about passion, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes,
Very
it's
passionate about this. It's
okay.
a weird thing
That's
to be passionate about, but
I
it's
think
my passion.
I think it's logic. I think it's logic when somebody loves what he does. There is no time limit. There is no, everything is just it's just rolling out naturally. It's
Hmm.
and this is how it should normally be, and this is how it has been as well before the industrial age. Because
Mm.
everyone had a business. We
Yeah.
were not supposed to work in factories, or go go for work for somebody. We all had our own business before, So I mean, there were always like small things where somebody, but no, the normal way was you learn something and you do your own business, even though it was only
Hmm.
a small business, But this way, people were passionate about what they do. They love doing their weapons, to hit their weapons. They
Yeah.
love to do that, but because at the end of the day, they had the sword, Like
And they
just an
love that
example.
sword. That sword is beautiful to them. It was
Exactly,
perfectly
exactly,
polished. And no matter how much work that went into that, that sword at the end of the day was their baby. That's how I see this
exactly.
every single day. At the end of the day, it's like I learned something new. I got to do something I enjoy. I got to talk. Let's say even I have the worst conversations today more than I did 5 years ago because of how impactful the supply chain is to a lot of businesses and how much it's hurting them. Hardest conversations. At the end of the day, I get to sleep like a baby because I got to inform them, hey, this is the reality of what's happening. We can
Exactly.
find solutions together, but these are the actual problems. And I know someone else out there is going through a lot of similar things, and it's like, how can we just continue solving these problems at scale? And that's what my team's looking to do, and that's what I'm looking to continue doing. And I'm extremely passionate about it. I hope to keep doing it for the rest of my life, to be honest.
That's amazing, really. And we have one last question. What is your message to entrepreneurs out there who are, currently want to start a business, or who are struggling at the moment? What would be your message for them? Because it's not so easy for everyone, at the moment.
It's not. And I mean, even for those that I talked to today, it's not easy. And it's the ones that we're talking to are not the largest companies that have capital that can support them. But understanding that,
Exactly.
a problem doesn't mean stop. Usually it just means press that gas pedal harder, go harder, study harder, learn something new. So it's tackling the problems one step at a time, but tackling all of the problems no matter what. It's not letting it stop you, no matter how hard it is. If you have a bad supplier, if you have a bad freight forwarder, if you lost our inventory and you need to figure out what's going on, you didn't get it, whatever the problem is, there is a solution. And it's how much work do you want to put in to actually find that solution. So
Sure.
my biggest suggestion is just keep going, no matter what it is you're doing. Just keep trying harder and keep that pedal down and keep hitting that go.
Exactly. That's a very, very nice explanation of that one. So thank you so much. I mean, it was really very informative for me. Noviland is definitely a company which will come in the future even more forward. I mean, more people will use your services, your type of services, because, like I said, it's easier, and it's something which everyone can relate to. If we put it in any place of life, it's something which is definitely a model which is here to stay, because we will not, more and more will not, maybe not fly anymore so much, maybe don't go to places anymore. So it's definitely a business model which has a huge potential. I wish
And
you.
we hope.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I hope we see more companies similar to Noviland. As much as my boss is gonna hate me to say that, because they are gonna be direct competitors, I hope there are more just like us, innovating in this space that we call supply chain. And this innovation is gonna drive better growth for everyone, and in every facet of life. Everything relates back to supply chain. So hopefully we do see more companies like Noviland innovating in this space too.
And one last thing, what you just said about problems. I try to cut, for example, out the word problems. I call it challenges. I really try to not do it anymore, because problems sound so negative. It makes me as well negative. So just to.
I'm gonna start using that. Challenges. We're not having a problem. There's this challenge.
No, we have
need to
challenge.
tackle this challenge together.
Exactly.
I love it.
Exactly. It's just myself. I found myself one day, like you, to really say problem, and at the end of the day, somebody told me, "Hey, listen, why you always say problems? It's something.
So many problems.
Problems are here to resolve, so we call it challenges." Okay.
I like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll get my team on that too. We'll start calling them challenges too.
Great. Thank you so much, Francois, for being on here, and for the information and everything. Thank you. Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Then speak to you next time. Bye bye.